Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship Qualifiers, guys. It's the end of the road, the end of the tour, and only the best of the best get through at this point. What's even sicker for you guys, the fans, is knowing that if Cure gets knocked out of this qualifier, there's 2 other qualifiers, all within the next 14 hours. You may get to see them play in once again. But spotting here at the top right corner of the map, it's about 10 a.m. over in Korea, so it's the start to his day. It's going to be the red Terran Cure.
The bottom left as the blue Protoss, Joey Flashwolf Sun.
Alright, I think there's just a lot to be said about both these players, and talking them up is absolutely unnecessary. But I do think what's cool is the hype I have for both of these players personally revolves around their other matchups. I'm so stoked anytime Cure plays TVZ. I'm super excited when it's a TVT. I haven't seen enough of his TVP, but I guarantee you I'm probably going to fall in love with it. But the same kind of goes for Sun. I'm not such a big fan of watching him play PvP, because PvP with Sun can be really 3-gatey. But his CVP is fantastic, and we're going to get a look at his PvT here against Cure.
Yep, fortunately we don't know much about these specific matchups. We can tell you a lot about what Cure does in TVZ, I guess, or a few months ago anyways, but... yeah, this matchup now, not so much. But I guess it won't be cheesy, as we already have the opener standard is. We actually have Cure not go for gas, so not entirely standard. It's just going to be the 1-Rax gases expand, which I mentioned earlier not having seen in a while.
I was going to flip out, by the way, if this ended up being with the 2nd Rax instead of his base, and it's just every TVP we cast today is like that major style 2 Rax, hope you don't see me coming.
Yeah, that would have been really, really weird. But this is still weird. Like the 1-Rax no gas expand. I mean,
yeah, I'd say it's a lot more common to see CC first than even this.
Right, it is. I'd say so too. It's still, I guess it's like the in between economies, right, between a gas expand and a CC first, but you still don't get the Reaper, and that's what I feel is like the biggest problem with CC first. So you don't get the Reaper, but it's such a big boon on economy that it's worth it. That going in between. I don't know, but I guess he's banking on the SCVCing a lot, and already had seen that second gas wasn't taken like as soon as possible, or he is planning on using scans, which just never happened, so I don't know.
Yoda, I think, is still one of the only Terran players we've cast in God knows how long that has actively been scanning. And I don't mean like 1 or 2 scans against particular players, I mean every time we cast him for what felt like a period of a month. Yoda would scan his opponent's tech. He would scan 17 minutes in. I mean, he was just a scan machine. Yeah.
So he must be planning on at least using 1 scan, unless the SCV can get back in.
You need a HB2 pencil for his scantron. But
okay, anyways. So, yeah, we just have to worry if, and the thing is that it might not even matter. Like, he might not have to scout anything. He might just say, well, I hope that he's doing something macro-oriented and let me just play greedy, basically. Like, maybe he'll get a bunker and maybe that emergency turret after a while, but if Son had been going for, like, a DT rush, it'd be hard to see.
Actually, that's kind of funny that you mentioned that. I totally zoned out on thinking... it's a Korean Protoss player. These guys, generally speaking, you could put a barcode on this and not know it's Sam, but just generally speaking, these guys get a little more aggressive. They get a little more in your face. And whether it's something like quick DTs or really fast blink builds, it's not like he's going to let Cure sit back and be the one to harass him. At most, he'll have to deal with an overcharge, as we classically see in the matchup, but I think even though this isn't exactly a map for blink, you can still use blink really well outside of it.
Well, you can always pressure. Again, the thing about Cure not being able to get back in there with the Reaper is that when you usually see like 4 blink stalkers come up in your face, you'll say, oh, you just opened up with blink. Well, let me go check and make sure you don't have 7 gateways. And of course, this time you'd have to wait for a scan. But it doesn't look to be that all in, as it is a Forge and a Robo. Yeah. And Cure is going to get away with, no bunker, no early missile turret. It's just, standard does for both players.
Sorry for the amazing observing right now, guys. Sorry, I had an itch I could not scratch. I was just going nuts. But yeah, you're right. Like, there's, I feel like a lot of the times we see TVP go down, a lot of it's misinformation or misjudging information. Regardless of whether it's the late game with the Colossus and trying to keep up with the tech swaps, or whether it's the early game, like knowing whether it's 4 Stalkers or 2 coming across the map. The Reaper missing does suck, but I don't think it exactly knocks Cure out of the game by any means. Even if he doesn't scan, sometimes it is to that point where, well, the drop is your scouting information. The damage you dealt through an aggressive attack, that's your scouting information. And I'd say the emphasis of shifting information really, it changes drastically as the game goes on. Early game, it's really important for a Terran player to know what the openings look like. Do you have to worry about DTs or early Colossus, some 2-base all-in? But as the game goes later on, it becomes down more for San. Where are the dropships coming from? Is there a baited attack on the left side while he really attacks you on the right towards your third? So for now, it's been an interestingly passive game, but I think for Cure's sake, it gets a little bit more comfortable as time goes on.
Yeah, I would say so. And as you can see, he put Marines in his bases. He did get that turret. So when he saw the Nexus with an SCV, it did tell him already then, just that small scout, a lot. Like it told him that the timings would be later, of course. They're actually going to be 2 bases and not just off of 1 base. So, and anything that would really hurt him for not scouting after that, like I'm thinking like a 3-gate, right? Or even a 4-gate, which we really don't see anymore off of 2 bases. They're just rare to begin with. And as the first, it looks like he has, but he might not bother scanning it. He
doesn't have the energy. Sure. I think he was prepping for it, waiting for it.
But
the energy.
Okay, he's gonna get it.
I almost got 2.
Yeah, barely missed the second one.
Well, he's pushing, and this is going to be at a nice time before External Thermal Lance is done. But, I mean, how much can you really get done pushing into a natural base like this?
I don't know, and funnily enough, he doesn't really either.
Well, that's the nice thing, though. I mean, San can always try and Cure can always try and get the Nexus and get outer type thing, but it's 1 Colossus, Photon Overcharge does get popped.
But the reinforcements, he might be able to do something. He's going to have, you can get a fairly good concave. He can start maybe harassing the gas geyser, for instance, a little bit. Like very tiny things, but the Colossus should stop him from, of course, dying.
That Zealot almost killed 3 units. I hate Zealots so much.
Yeah, well, I don't like the 3rd CC on location, so.
Well, that's, yeah. Combat Shield does finish, though, so the timing for this might just be perfect for what he wants to do. He's able to take those extra couple of shots, picks off the pylon to prevent warpers directly on top of his army, but again, he's still at this timing for the next 30-ish seconds where he can try and abuse the fact External Thermal Lance is not finished, but for him, he doesn't really know that. That kind of comes down to that scouting information again. If he scanned ahead, if he saw it was mostly Stalkers, 1, 2 Colossus with low range, this wouldn't be so bad for him, but blinks backwards, the Zealot's going to soak the hits. Cure takes an okay engagement. I don't know if he'll stim for the Colossus or not. That might be a little bit risky, but he does have a lot of bio here.
Yeah. Most of it was Marines, though. Like, if there was, like, 4 more Marauders, he probably stands on top of that Colossus. But as it is, he trades out effectively, I would say. It was, you know, it wasn't the high-tech units that you wish you get before you get out, but it was still army for army.
Hopefully the Vikings get pulled back. Losing these early is going to really suck. It's hard to get that amount of Vikings banked up where you just can start engaging Colossus comfortably. But the nice thing about Overgrowth is there's a lot of locations you can abuse the Vikings, most notably around the kitchen, but for the most part, there's still these areas like the little ponds and the left side.
Cure doesn't quite know that the 3rd is down, but he's probably guessing it. Doesn't really have much presence on the map at all. The Xel'Nagas aren't taken. He does send 1 Marine off to the left to hopefully scout for any future pylons, but that's it.
Yeah, I kind of think that's the real mark of a very good Terran player. When you're willing to sacrifice units for instead of scans, instead of putting that scouting down. I mean, right over here, it doesn't see much right now, but if he patrols this around, if he sees the Stalker attack move on the left side, suddenly he knows to split his forces. Small things like this can really go far, but I'm really surprised Cure's not trying to rally up around the watchtowers. At least control vision so he knows where his opponent is.
Yeah, it is surprising, but
I mean, I think that's a big part of why he's staying here. He doesn't know where the next attack comes from while he rallies up. Left side, 3rd, straight down the middle.
Yeah. I was wondering if he's going to play the very passive style that we've seen from other Terrans, where they might poke once, but they don't bother dropping so much. And Cure really hasn't, but, you know, in exchange for not being able to drop, you just have this very big army. And if you can get a good Viking count, you don't have to SMB for it. You're still going to have a big enough army to potentially take on theirs if you get good positioning with the Vikings. And she's looking for her.
Yeah, I mean, 4 Vikings at a time is a ton of production. It's actually kind of interesting to see Kieran not go for the vehicle weapons upgrade, but I guess he's definitely focusing on more quantity than quality. Again, this is that 6th spot where you can really abuse Vikings, because Stalkers cannot blink onto this particular area, so the Vikings can sit over there a little more comfortably. The Stalker count, it's decent, but it's the Colossus count I'm looking at most. There's just no way for him to engage with the bio while the Colossus is firing on him.
Yeah. Well, Charge is about to finish up. He's getting one more Colossus. I think that after, it's around the time where you would start to think about High Templars.
Yeah, and I think that kind of comes back to the whole not being able to drop thing. You're typically scared enough of Blink Stalkers catching your medevacs, but there's no worse feeling than getting space slammed down by a feedback.
Yeah. So that's why we usually don't see, later game drops. We still might see a Doom drop or two, but they always seem like they don't go well, especially when Storm is done, because feedbacks plus Storm just, well, they can do what 12, 15 units do otherwise.
That is a lot of Vikings coming in, 16 strong over top of 6 Colossus. If the Stalkers don't get the free hits, they should be able to take them down fairly quickly. Guardian Shield going to help a little bit here as they do affect air weapons, but not by much. Colossus still getting taken out 2 volleys at a time, and the Bio's just stimming and stuttering away from the Zealots. Meanwhile, the Colossus are getting annihilated through this. One Marine on the back.
He is running low on Vikings, but he's no longer targeting them. There he goes.
However,
that Colossus may just live.
But even so, it's 2 Colossus. This is definitely not the same as 6, and he's able to fight this a little more face value. However, 2 Marauders from the backside coming to focus down that Colossus. The last one's going to go down, and Cure stops this army. That was just macro army versus macro army, and San gets wiped. This 3rd base is going to fall. Yes. Never mind, good game is called.
Cure's pretty good.
Cure is pretty good.